Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. My phone started buzzing before I even unlocked the front door. I looked down and saw my brother's name on the screen. I am Alex and I am 28, and this is the call that wrecked everything. I knew something was off before I even answered. I put the grocery bag on the floor and just stared. Mark never called this late unless something was wrong. My thumb hovered over decline for a second that felt heavy. Then I hit accept and pressed the phone to my ear. "Hey, you busy?" His voice came way too bright, almost forced. That fake cheer hit me harder than any bad news. "If you're driving or something, I can call back later." "I'm home." I dropped onto the nearest chair. "What is going on with you, Mark?" There was a small pause on the line that stretched. I could hear him breathing and maybe pacing somewhere. "Okay, this is weird, just try not to freak out." My chest tightened because people only say that before a crash. "Just say it." My legs started bouncing. "You can't come to the wedding." He let it drop like that and then went quiet. For a second, I thought the call had cut out completely. I pulled the phone away and checked the screen like an idiot. "You are joking about this, right?" "I wish I was joking about this." He sounded tired now, all the fake cheer gone. "It's gotten too complicated, and we have had meeting after meeting." My brain snagged on that word like it was a threat. "What do you mean I can't come?" "It is about her family." His voice dropped. "They feel like things are hostile right now." He cleared his throat and I could almost see him wince. "They actually said it feels like they are at war with our side." The word stuck in my head like a nail. I laughed once and it came out sharp and ugly. "War? Seriously, that is the word they used." I waited for him to laugh with me and walk it back. He did not laugh, not even a little. That was when my stomach really dropped. "Look, you know things have been tense. They are still angry about everything that happened online." He took a breath that hit the microphone like static. "They said they will not feel safe if you are there." Safe, like I was a threat and not his little sibling. I remember standing up without deciding to stand up. The chair scraped behind me and my heart kicked harder. So now I am dangerous because I told the truth. My voice went higher and I hated how shaky it sounded. "That is what they are saying about me." "I am not saying that." His answer came faster. "I know you thought you were doing the right thing." He rushed those words out like he was crossing a minefield. "But they lost a lot and they blame you for all of it." Every sentence felt like another step away from me. Back then I grabbed onto the one part that felt solid. I had told myself I did the only thing possible. It made me stubborn and self-righteous and loud in every argument. Sitting here now writing this, I can see that streak clearly. I was not ready to see any of it that night. "So let me get this straight." My jaw clenched. "Your solution is to ban me from your own wedding." Saying the words out loud made the room tilt for a moment. "Do Mom and Dad know you're doing this?" I wanted him to say no so badly it hurt. Another pause, longer this time and way more loaded. "Yeah," he finally answered, and the word landed like a slap. "We talked about it on Sunday, and they agreed it was best." My grip tightened around the phone until my hand ached. I had not even known there was a meeting about me. "You all sat together and planned to keep me out." My voice cracked on the last word and I bit it back. I pictured them around a table, calm and reasonable and cold. "They do not want drama at the wedding," he said softly. That is what they kept repeating. So I am the one causing the drama. It came out flat and bitter and I hated the taste. Mark sighed and it crackled through the line like static. "You know that is not what I mean." The worst part was, he sounded like he actually believed that. "If you have ever been talked about like a storm, you get this. Like you are not a person anymore, just weather to avoid." That was how I felt in that moment, like a forecast. Expected and tracked and managed, not actually invited into the room. I could feel something mean and scared waking up inside me. "What happens if I show up anyway?" I asked. There was a beat where he did not answer at all. I pictured him closing his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Please do not do that." His voice shook. "They are serious about this and I cannot risk it." "Risk what exactly in your opinion?" I started pacing in tight little lines across the kitchen. You really think they would make a scene at your wedding? I wanted him to say no, to call them dramatic and wrong. He did not give me that. They said they will leave, he finally answered. They said if you walk in, they walk out. He swallowed and I heard it, and then he pushed on. I cannot have that on our wedding video and our photos. The way he said our made my chest burn. He had already picked his side, even if he pretended otherwise. He could talk about pressure and logistics and feelings all day. What I heard was simple: I was not worth the risk. Not worth an argument, not worth a ruined picture. That kind of math stays in your bones. I never thought you would throw me under a bus like this. My throat hurt, but I kept my voice steady somehow. I stood up for someone who was getting hurt, and this is my reward. Even saying those words felt like grabbing armor in the dark. Do you really think I am the problem here? I think the situation is the problem. He sounded older than 2 years above me right then. We are trying to make the least bad choice for everyone. Everyone did not seem to include me, not in any real way. That was the part I could not swallow. Congrats on the perfect day then. The words came out before I could filter them at all. I heard him make a small noise like I had shoved him. Alex, do not do this, his voice dropped to a whisper. We can talk more after the wedding, okay? That line told me everything I needed to know in the moment. I was not part of the day, just a problem to postpone. My hand shook as I pulled the phone from my ear. For a second I considered begging just to see if it worked. Instead I hit end and cut the line. The kitchen went quiet in that sudden way after a dropped call. I stared at my reflection in the black phone screen. The wedding invitation sat on the counter, glossy and smug. My name was printed in careful letters on the envelope beneath it. By the end of the week, that envelope would be in the trash. I was already in my car before my mind caught up. Keys in the ignition, engine running, hands locked on the wheel. The call with Mark hung in the air like it had not ended. I pulled out of the driveway and headed straight to my parents'. I needed someone to tell me this was insane. I barely knocked when I reached their front door. My fist hit the wood twice, fast and uneven. The door opened and my mom's smile dropped in real time. You look pale, she murmured, fingers brushing my arm. I pulled away before I started shaking. Mark just kicked me out of his own wedding. The words burst out so hard my throat burned. My mom's hand flew to her chest like she felt stabbed. Behind her, my dad turned from the hallway, face tight. They both froze like they had rehearsed this moment. My dad stepped aside and motioned me in without speaking. I walked past him and stopped in the middle of the living room. The invitation was on their table too, mocked me again. I stared at it like it was a witness in court. Did you already know about this? My voice cracked upward. My mom shut the door gently, then leaned against it. Her eyes dropped for a second, just long enough. That single delay was all the answer I really needed. We talked with him a few days ago, she admitted. My chest went hot and numb at the same time. So that is a yes, I laughed once, sharp and ugly. You all had a meeting about me and never called. I looked from one parent to the other and waited. My dad ran a hand over his face like he was exhausted. This is not how we wanted you to find out. How did you want me to find out exactly? I took a step closer, pulse hammering in my ears. Best case, I just get a polite text and stay home. I could hear my own voice getting louder, then louder again. What was the plan for your extra child? That is not fair, my mom straightened and moved closer. He is under so much pressure from her family right now. Her fingers twisted together like she was holding back more words. They are scared something will happen if you come to the ceremony. There it was again, that word, scared of me. I stared at her and blinked slowly like that helped. Afraid of what exactly? That I exist and have a mouth. My dad shifted his weight, shoulders stiff, gaze locked on the floor. They think everything will blow up if you show up, he muttered. They want the day calm and simple. Calm and simple for who? I shot back. Because it sure sounds peaceful for everyone except me. I could feel my hands moving as I spoke, wild and jerky. My mom reached out but stopped halfway like she hit a wall. You lit this fire when you posted all that online. There it was, finally dragged into the room. That post had been sitting between us for months like a landmine. Back then I told myself I would never regret it, not once. Now replaying it as I type this, I can see how naive that sounded. In that living room, though, I clung to it like a shield. I told the truth and you know it. My jaw ached because I was grinding my teeth. You want me to apologize for calling out what happened? I pointed toward the table, toward the pretty scripted names. Why get flowers and cake and I get blamed? My mom's mouth tightened like she tasted something bitter. Your truth had consequences, she said, voice barely above a whisper. There were calls, lawyers, people threatening to sue our family. Her eyes were bright and angry and scared all at once. We are still getting messages because of what you wrote. For a second I lost my words completely. Nobody had told me it had gone that far with them. Mark had hinted at stress, but not at lawyers and threats. If it was that bad, why did you not tell me? I asked. Their silence after that question hit harder than a shout. My dad finally looked up and met my eyes. You were so convinced you did the only right thing. He spoke slowly, like every word weighed a ton. Anytime we tried to talk about fallout, you shut it down. You kept saying you would do it again. He was not wrong, and I hated that. At the time I wore my anger like armor and a costume. I liked being the one who did not back down from bullies. I am not proud of how much I enjoyed being righteous. That part is not fun to admit to anyone. So now they want payback and I am the price. I let out a short laugh that sounded nothing like humor. My mom stepped closer and gripped my forearm hard. It is not about revenge, she insisted through clenched teeth. They want to feel safe with their side of the family. Do you feel unsafe around me? I asked her. Her eyes flooded instantly, and that hurt in a different way. No, she answered, firm and quick without any pause. You are my kid, I know your heart, I know why you posted. Other people only see the damage, not the reasons. Then why did you agree to this? I whispered. My voice dropped because yelling stopped working on my lungs. You could have told him this was a line you would not cross. My dad's shoulders slumped like he had already lost something. We were scared they would cancel the whole thing. I blinked hard because I did not understand at first. Cancel the whole thing as in no wedding at all. He nodded once, tiny, like he was ashamed of the gesture. They brought it up more than once in those talks with us. If you were invited, some of them threatened to back out. So they held the wedding hostage and you surrendered me. The words came out quiet, colder than anything I had shouted. My mom flinched like I had slapped her with them. We thought if you stayed home this one day, it would calm everything down. That after that, we could fix things between you all. You know that feeling when someone calls your pain temporary? Like you are supposed to wait in the hallway until they are ready. That was exactly how it landed, like I was on standby. A problem to schedule, not a person with a wrecked heart. Resentment started growing roots right under my ribs. You did not even ask me, I said slowly. You just decided my place for me and left me out. My dad opened his mouth, then closed it, then tried again. We were afraid you would explode if we mentioned it earlier. So we told ourselves we were protecting you too. That excuse almost made me laugh again because it sounded thin. Protecting me would have been standing next to me, I snapped. Not handing me over so they can all relax at dinner. My mom wiped under her eyes with the heel of her hand. We are trying to keep the peace on both sides. There are not two sides for you, I fired back. There is your family and strangers who hate your own kid. My voice shook not from fear but from sheer frustration. You picked the strangers and called it peace. That sentence hung between us like smoke. For the first time my mom looked angry at me, not just sad. You think this was easy for us, she shot back. We have been getting pressure from every direction for months. His fiancée was ready to walk away, do you understand that? Do you get what that would have done to your brother? The mention of her almost leaving hit differently. I had pictured stress, sure, maybe some crying and yelling. I had not pictured her actually packing up and calling it off. Back then, I dismissed that as drama and manipulation. Now writing this, I know that threat changed everything for them. I dragged a hand through my hair and turned away. Okay, so I destroyed their peace and now my punishment is exile. My dad winced at that word but did not argue with it. We are asking for one day, he repeated quietly, almost pleading. One day where things are calm so they can start their life. One day for them turns into years for me, I answered. Because you know this does not just stop after the cake. They both watched me like I was walking toward a ledge. You really think she will welcome me with open arms after this? She already got proof they can push me out whenever they want. No one replied, and that was its own kind of confirmation. My mom sank down onto the couch, shoulders tig. HT and small. My dad stayed standing, like he needed to guard something invisible. I looked at the invitation again and wanted to rip it in half. I did not because some part of me still hoped they would change their minds. I am not coming, I finally said, voice low but steady. If I am not wanted, I am not going to beg for crumbs. My mom let out a broken sound that was half sob, half protest. We never said you are not wanted, she insisted through tears. You are loved, but this situation is bigger than us. That line replayed in my head all night after I left. Loved but not enough to fight for, not in that moment. I walked out of their house without hugging either of them. The door clicked shut behind me, soft and final in my ears. I remember thinking, this family just shrank and nobody even moved. In the car, my phone lit up with new notifications. Group chat messages, a couple of random social media alerts. I ignored them all and drove home on autopilot. Later that night, though, one message would matter more than the rest. A cousin would send me screenshots that turned everything darker. The first screenshot popped up before I even got off the couch. My phone buzzed twice in a row, hard enough to jolt me. On the lock screen, Jenna's name sat over a preview. You need to see this. Nothing good has ever followed that sentence in my life. I opened our chat and more images were already stacking. 4, 5, 6 little previews, all from the same minute. Under them she had typed, fast and broken. I just heard about the wedding mess. Please do not lose it when you read these. My fingers hovered over the first picture and stalled. I could feel my pulse in my thumb actually pounding. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Another part was desperate to tap and drag and zoom. Curiosity and dread fought while my stomach rolled. I clicked anyway. The screenshot filled the screen with a group conversation header. Some joint family thread that I had never been added to. Names from her side lined up with some from ours. I stared at the top message first because it was bolded. Can we confirm that Alex is not invited? That one line hit me harder than the call with my parents. Seeing my name followed by that demand felt different. A lot colder, more like a policy than a feeling. Under it, a string of replies piled up. Good, we do not want them anywhere near this event. They made everything worse last year. I refused to sit through a ceremony with that person smiling. Someone else added a thumbs up emoji that felt cruel. I kept scrolling down, breath stuck high in my chest. Another screenshot, same chat, different day. Jenna had circled one message in red before sending it. We should have pressed charges when we had the chance. The sender was one of the bride's relatives I barely knew. My thumb started to tremble against the glass. Charges. That word sent a new kind of fear through my spine. Until that moment, I had treated their anger like noise. Annoying, loud, but not an actual threat to my freedom. Reading the word next to my name flipped that switch fast. I tapped back to Jenna. What is this from? Her answer came back almost instantly, like she was waiting. They made a separate chat after your post went viral. My aunt added our parents so everyone could coordinate. Coordinate. That was the word she used, like I was a storm system. Crazy part is, she was not exaggerating, not by much. They really had been planning around me for months. I just had not seen the blueprint until right then. I opened the next image without giving myself a break. This one showed a longer stretch of messages, all stacked. At the top, one line jumped out in all caps. My kids had child services show up at our house. Underneath, the uncle's name popped into view. He was the one I had called out online. The one everyone had whispered about for years. I watched my own history reflected through their eyes. Great, thanks to Alex's little crusade, we had investigators here. They questioned my wife like she was the problem. I swallowed hard and looked away for a second. I knew about welfare checks from other people's stories. I had not known they had actually come to his home. Nobody had told me that detail, not once. Maybe they were afraid I would be proud of it. I swiped down again, unable to stop myself. Another message came from someone else in that thread. We lost 3 big clients after that post just vanished. Do you know how many people saw what they wrote? They tagged the company page and every local group. That part was true, even if it hurt to read. When I wrote that post, I wanted people to notice. Attention felt like the only leverage I had back then. I am not proud of how satisfying those likes felt. It made me feel powerful in a way I had never felt. In the screenshot, her mother chimed in under the complaints. If they show up at the wedding, I will not be there. I am dead serious about this. No more games with that side of the family. My blood ran hot and then suddenly cold. I had spent weeks thinking my brother was exaggerating. Part of me believed he was using his fiancée as cover. Like he wanted a clean event and hid behind her wishes. Now I was staring at proof that the threat had been real. These people were ready to boycott their own daughter's ceremony. I flicked back to Jenna again, fingers moving fast. How long have they been saying stuff like this? She responded with a single word first. Months. Then more dots appeared as she kept typing. They made that chat after your post blew up. At first it was just panic and yelling. Then it turned into planning and lists and demands. Our parents did not show me everything, but I grabbed screenshots. I thought you deserved to know what they are saying. My throat tightened in a different way with that last line. At least someone in the family still thought I deserved anything. I typed back slower, trying not to let my anger aim at her. Thank you for sending this. I am not mad at you, I promise. More pictures came through before she replied again. This time the messages had a different tone. Less about me as a villain, more about me as a lever. One cousin from her side had typed something brutal. Just tell him it is you or Alex and see what happens. I knew who him was, obviously. They were treating my brother like a rope in a tug of war. A few lines down, another message appeared with his name. He is terrified she will cancel, he will cave to whatever we need. My hands went cold seeing my own brother discussed that way. I zoomed in on that sentence until the pixels blurred. There was a weird sick comfort in knowing I was not crazy. They really had used the wedding as a weapon. They really did not care what it did to me at all. I just sat there breathing shallow, staring at the screen. Then I dragged up to see the next section and froze. His name was at the start of the next line, clear. I love them, but they went way too far online. My chest clenched so tight that I had to put the phone down. That single sentence cut more than all the rest combined. You know the feeling when you think someone defended you. When you convince yourself they must have argued in every room. Seeing proof that they had agreed with your worst critics hurts. It makes the floor feel less solid under your feet. That was me on that couch trying not to drop the phone. I picked it back up because I could not leave it there. Under his message, someone from her family had replied. Then you know why they cannot attend, this is not negotiable. If their sibling is there, we will walk out, every one of us. He answered with one short line that made my stomach twist. Let me handle it, I will talk to them. He really had chosen his angle before he even called. That was not a shocked reaction, that was a plan. It did not matter how gentle his tone had been on the phone. The decision had already been announced in that chat. I flipped to the final screenshot Jenna had sent. This one looked more recent, based on the dates at the top. My dad's name showed up this time near the middle. We all agree they should sit this event out, it is safer. We will make it up to them after the honeymoon. Make it up to me how exactly? That sentence sounded like a coupon for a ruined childhood. They were bargaining with me like I was a schedule change. I pressed 2 fingers to my temple and closed my eyes. I could feel a headache starting behind my eyes. More lines cluttered the image as I kept reading. One relative had written, if they show up, I am calling security. Another had added, I do not care if they are family. Someone else wrote, people like that do not change, they escalate. Each message took a little bite out of my sense of self. People like that. I could not shake those 3 words once I saw them. They did not see me as someone who made one bad choice. In their story, I was a type, a category, a threat. It is hard not to live down to that label after a while. Back then, I was still wrapped in my own certainty. I told myself this just proved how toxic they all were. That kind of story is easy to live in, hero versus mob. Sitting here writing this, I can admit it was more tangled. There were real consequences mixed in with their cruelty. I went back to Jenna again because I needed more context. Did Mark know you grabbed these? She took a little longer this time before answering. No, I screenshotted them when my mom left her phone unlocked. If she finds out, I will be in huge trouble. The guilt hit me fast and heavy with that message. I had dragged her into this without even asking for help. Now she was sneaking around in chats that could blow back on her. I stared at the blue bubble for a long, quiet moment. You do not have to send anything else, I finally wrote. G-Resp. Ended with another line that cracked something open. I watched them rewrite what happened to make you the only villain. That is why I am doing this, not to stir more chaos. I want you to see what they are planning over your head. Please promise you will not confront them while you are this angry. I did not make that promise. I sent her a heart emoji because I did not trust my words. Then I tossed the phone onto the couch and stood up too fast. The room tilted for a second and I gripped the wall to steady myself. I felt wired and drained at the same time, which is a special hell. I paced from one end of the room to the other. My thoughts bounced between the worst lines in those chats. Charges, security, people like that, not negotiable, all echoing. Every step made the urge to call my brother surge higher. I wanted to shove those screenshots into his face through the phone. At the same time, a quieter thought slipped in around the edges. They are reacting to something real that you did. I tried to kick that thought away because it did not feel fair. Still, it stuck stubborn and small but impossible to ignore. Nobody forms a war council because of a post with no impact. I dropped back onto the couch and pulled the phone closer again. My thumb hovered over his contact name for a long minute. If I called now, I knew exactly how it would go. I would scream, he would shut down, we would both say unforgivable things. Part of me wanted that final blow-up just to match the damage. Instead, I opened my own social media app. I scrolled back through my posts until I found the one. The paragraphs, the tags, the names, all still sitting there. The comments stretched down farther than I remembered. Praise, outrage, arguments, strangers thanking me for speaking up. At the time, that flooded felt like justice. Reading it now with fresh knowledge felt different. Some compliments sounded more like they were hyping a show. People who never met us were cheering like it was entertainment. I had fed them the story and they had eaten every word. I hovered over the delete option for a full 30 seconds. My thumb shook a little as I hovered above the button. Part of me imagined how fast the other side would celebrate. They would take it as proof that I had been lying all along. Another part pictured the relief of not being a public spectacle. I did not delete anything that night. I locked my phone and let it drop beside me. My heart was still racing, my brain still spinning in circles. If I took that post down, I knew I would hear about it immediately. From my family, from strangers, from the people who had begged me to share. The only thing I did, the only little action was this. I turned off the comment notifications so my screen stayed quiet. It felt weak and small after everything I had started. Like putting a bandage on a broken bridge. Still, it was the first time I admitted the situation was bigger than me. By the end of that night, one decision had crystallized in my head. I could not just sit and swallow what I had read in those chats. There was only one other person who had to hear about it. The one who had written I love them but under my name. I went to sleep knowing I would call my brother again. I hit call before I could talk myself down. His contact picture flashed once, then the ringing started. My heart thumped so loud I almost hung up. I pictured his phone lighting up across town. For a second I hoped he would ignore me. He picked up on the third ring. Hey, his voice sounded worn out like no sleep. There was noise in the background, a door closing. You okay? He asked after a beat. I almost laughed at that. I read everything. Those were the first words out of my mouth. No hello, no build up, just straight into it. The line went quiet in a way that hurt. You know what I am talking about. He exhaled through his nose, short and rough. You talked to mom again. Not mom, I squeezed the phone tighter. Jenna sent me screenshots from that private chat. You all really love secret committee meetings. Long pause. What exactly did she show you? His tone shifted from tired to sharp in 1 second. All of it, I pushed back. Every message with my name underlined like a warning label. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, bare feet buzzing. I saw them arguing over whether to call security on me. I saw them joke about pressing charges like it is a game. I saw you writing that I went too far. That is the part stuck in my teeth. He did not rush to defend himself. I could hear him moving, maybe walking into another room. Okay, he said slowly, spacing the word out. So you know how bad it got on their side. They have not exactly been chill about this. I am not calling about them. My voice came out low and tight. They have hated me for months, that is old news. I am calling because you agreed with them in writing. Yo, you made me the problem so they would leave you alone. That is not what I did. He sounded more awake now, more alert. You are twisting this in the worst possible direction. I let out a short, bitter sound that was not a laugh. Then you can untwist it because I am listening. I tossed the phone to speaker and set it on the table. I needed both hands to keep from shaking. I watched them talk about me like a threat file. They used my name like a curse, like a joke. And you still typed, let me handle it. I typed that because someone had to de-escalate. There was frustration in his voice now, aimed both ways. They were ready to tear the entire event apart over this. You have no idea how close she was to ending everything. I was trying to prevent that, not betray you. There it is again. I dragged a chair out and sat down too hard. Everything is about the ceremony for you. Video, photos, vows, her dress, her nerves. I am the one thing you decided you could cut. That is not true. His answer came so fast it almost overlapped mine. If I went along with their first demand, you would know. I frowned at the phone, thrown off for a second. What first demand? He hesitated, and that made my skin prickle. When this first blew up, they wanted more than no invite. They told me they did not want you in our life at all. As in, ever again, not just for this ceremony. The words dropped one by one like stones. I gripped the edge of the table until my knuckles hurt. They pushed you to cut me off permanently. He let out a heavy breath like he was sick of holding it. They spelled it out in those early messages, a clean break. No contact, no visits, no holidays, nothing. My ears rang for a second, loud and sharp. So what changed? Why am I only banned from the big day? I told them absolutely not, he answered, voice firmer. We fought about it for weeks, yelling and tears and doors. I told them they do not get to pick my siblings for me. For a second, something inside me loosened. I had not pictured him standing up for me that hard. In my head, he had just folded at the first request. Hearing he had refused anything complicated that version. I did not like how much relief crept in. So their compromise was to erase me from the ceremony. I rubbed my thumb over a dent in the table. If they could not erase me from your whole life, they still got to erase me from the most public part. And you sold that to yourself as a win. Do you honestly think this feels like victory? He sounded drained again, but more angry now. I am getting hit from both directions every day. Her relatives call me weak if I do not enforce their lines. You call me spineless if I try to keep the peace at all. Because you are trying to please people who want me gone. I could feel my voice lifting again, sharp, tired, raw. You keep calling it balance, but it is just you bending. You stood up to them once, great, but then you caved halfway. I still end up outside, looking in at your life. Outside of one event, he cut in quickly. One huge event that matters, I snapped right over him. Stop pretending this is some random barbecue. This is the day everyone will talk about for years. And my chair will be empty because her family demanded it. On the other end, I heard something slam softly. Probably a cupboard or his fist on a wall. She was shaking, Alex, he said, voice suddenly quieter. I watched her cry because my family keeps attacking hers online. I watched her delete messages from strangers calling her complicit. I went still at the table, staring at a stain. He had not mentioned that part before, not with detail. You never told me they were messaging her directly. You only said there was drama, I said slowly. If I had known, I might have. I stopped myself before finishing that sentence. Might have what written softer, chosen different words. Back then I would have sworn I would not change a thing. Now I could at least imagine pausing before hitting post. That new thought sat heavy on my tongue. You might have what, he pushed, catching the pause. I do not know, I snapped, too fast, too defensive. Maybe I would have removed her handle from the story. Maybe I would have stuck to the uncle and left her out. Is that what you need to hear? It would have helped, he answered after a beat. The inspectors still would have shown up at their door. The business still would have taken a hit from gossip. But maybe she would not feel personally targeted by her future in-law. Maybe her aunt would not still be threatening legal action. You keep listing consequences like I have not paid any price. I stood again because sitting made my chest feel tight. I lost your fiancé's respect before I ever had it. My name is poison in an entire branch of our family now. I am barred from the single biggest daring you have ever had. You also set fire to a secret everyone else tiptoed around. His reply came out sharp, almost a shout. You are not the only one living with fallout here. They cannot pretend he never did anything anymore. Their kids got checked on by people who actually care. He was right, and I hated that too. Hearing it from him instead of my own echo made it complicated. He was holding two truths at once, and I was stuck in one. Part of me wanted to hang up so I could stay furious. Balance feels less satisfying than pure outrage. And yet I am the person they treat like a loaded weapon. I walked to the sink and turned the water on and off. Pointless movement just to keep from screaming. You saw those lines about calling officers if I show up. You read them and still told me not to overreact. I told you not to blow up my wedding. His voice went flat on the word my, like he tasted it. They will absolutely make a scene if you come, trust that. They are already telling me they will walk out if you appear. I am not willing to risk her standing there alone. That image hit me hard against my will. Her at the front, empty chairs on one side. Him stuck in the middle, wondering if this was all a mistake. I closed my eyes because suddenly I could see it clearly. I did not want that for him, even then. This is not just about some staged pictures then. My voice dropped back down, rough around the edges. You are scared they will actually get up and leave. Not bluff, not threaten, actually take their kids and go. And it will be recorded and replayed by everyone forever. Yes, he answered without any pause. I have seen her mother look me in the eye and promise that. Not yell, not rant, just calmly lay it out like a contract. She told me point blank, if your sibling walks in, I am out. I believe her, and I am not testing her. I leaned my forehead against the cabinet door and breathed. So you are choosing the version of your life where I am home. I am at some diner or on my couch while you say your vows. Your side of the aisle packed with people who signed off on that. And you want me to understand because you tried. He was quiet so long I thought the call dropped. I am choosing the only version where I do not lose both, he said at last. If I fight them on this, she might leave. If I agree to total cutoff, I lose you instead. This is the one path where I get to keep some connection. Some connection, I repeated softly, the phrase sour on my tongue. As in birthdays over text, maybe a lunch once a year. As in we pretend nothing happened and never mention this day. He let out a rough laugh that sounded more like a choke. Probably a lot of awkward holidays, yeah. I pulled back and stared at the phone again. Do you hear yourself? I asked him quietly. You are building a marriage on the condition that I vanish tonight. You are setting up your future around the idea that I am dangerous. That is not keeping me, that is leaving me in a separate box. Do you think I do not hate this? He shot back. His control cracked for the first time, sharp and raw. I wake up every day wishing none of this had happened. I wish you had come to me before you posted anything. I wish I had handled it when I saw what he was doing. That last line stunned me. I had never heard him admit he had seen anything. I gripped the edge of the counter again, fingers numb. You knew, I asked, voice barely more than air. You knew and you did not stop him. I saw enough to know something was off, he answered. His words came halting, like they scraped on the way out. I did not walk into their house and check every detail. But I saw bruises that never had a good explanation. And I still went along with the family line, stay out of it. Hearing that broke something and softened something simultaneously. I had spent so long believing I was the only one paying attention. Now he was confessing that he saw pieces and backed away. It did not excuse him, but it did make him human again. I wished I did not understand that kind of looking away. So we both messed up differently, I said after a short silence. I went nuclear in public and you stayed quiet in private. We both let it drag on until someone outside stepped in. And now everybody is scrambling to manage the fallout in their own way. I still end up the one kept off the guest list though. I am not pretending this is fair, he replied. If I could hand out consequences by perfect logic, I would. He should be the one in exile, not you. They would rather punish the person who embarrassed them. They can live with him, not the reminder of what he did. That was the first time he had talked about their uncle like that. Not as a grumpy older relative, but as someone who deserved real heat. I sank back into the chair slowly, feeling hollow and buzzing. At least we agree on that much, I muttered. It does not fix my empty seat on Saturday. He cleared his throat on the other end. I know you might not believe this, he said quietly. But the only reason you are still in my life is because I fought this. If I had rolled over, you would be blocked by everyone right now. You would not even be getting this phone call. Anger and gratitude crashed into each other again in my chest. He had fought but also chosen a line I could not cross. I was grateful he did not pick permanent silence and furious that this was the compromise. That conflict sat right under my ribs, sharp and messy. There was no clean way to stand on one side of it. So what do you actually want from me? I asked. Not in theory, in real steps from now till the ceremony. Because you did not just call to explain their feelings. You want something from me, otherwise you would have cut contact already. My voice came out calm, but my hand shook on the tabletop. He did not dodge it this time. I want you to stay home on the day, he answered. No crashing, no surprise entrances, no dramatic speeches. I want to get through the vows without anybody storming out. And after that, I want time to untangle this without a bomb going off. A bomb named me, I said dryly. You realize that is how you sound, right? He groaned softly, and I pictured him rubbing his forehead. I know how it sounds, he muttered. It still feels like the only way through right now. We both went quiet again, and the silence felt heavy. I thought about showing up anyway, just to prove a point. I imagined walking down that aisle, feeling eyes burning holes. I imagined her mother standing up, taking half the room with her. I imagined my brother torn between chasing them and yelling at me. Here is the thing, I said finally. If I came, it would not be for you. It would be for my ego, so I could say they did not scare me. It would be to prove that they cannot control me like a puppet. None of that actually helps you start a marriage. You have no idea how much I did not expect you to say that. His voice softened in a way that made my throat tighten. I thought you were going to swear you would come anyway. I already had a whole speech ready for that scenario. Kind of stunned, I do not need it. Do not get excited, I answered, though a corner of me warmed. I am still completely furious with you. I am not forgiving this because you got choked up on the phone. I just refuse to be the main event at your wedding disaster video. I will not give them that story to tell. So you are not coming, he asked, almost whispering now. I stared at the phone like it might bite me. No, I said, each letter clipped and precise. Not after how they talked about me, not after that chat. I am not walking into a room where half the people already decided I am a monster. He let out a breath that sounded like a collapse. I know you do not believe it right now, he said. But that choice is the closest thing to protecting both sides. I am not asking you to forgive them or me. I am asking you to give me a chance to fix this later. I swallowed hard because that word later hurt. Later always sounds like hope and delay mixed together. Sometimes later means never with extra steps. Do not promise things you will not actually do, I said. I cannot handle another broken version of "we will make it up to you." I will call you after the honeymoon, he replied quickly. Not a group chat, not through mom directly. We can meet somewhere neutral and talk without everyone listening. You can tell me everything you just told me to my face. And we will figure out what our relationship looks like going forward. Going forward, I repeated, rolling the phrase around. As in, there is a future version where we are not doing this. As in, it will not always be me versus your in-laws. I wanted to believe that so badly it scared me. Hope felt almost as risky as anger right then. That is the version I am betting on, he said. I would not be marrying her if I thought this feud was permanent. She knows I am never cutting you off fully. She hates what you did, but she knows I care about you. That line you saw in the chat was me reminding them of that. The "I love them but." My chest squeezed around the memory of that sentence. That little word after love did a lot of damage. He was quiet for a second, like he was picking his reply. If it helps at all, I hated typing that. It does not help, I answered honestly. But I guess it makes you a little more human in this story. He snorted softly at that, a short tired sound. Glad I get to be human, he said. Because half the time I feel like a referee instead. We both knew the conversation was running out. There was nothing else to bargain with before the ceremony. You will have tea. He perfect day now, I said, the words bitter and thin. He did not let that slide this time. It will not be perfect, he answered, voice rough. There will be a space where you were supposed to be, he added. I will see it every time I look at the pictures. It is not like my brain will wipe you from that row. I will know exactly why that spot is empty. And I will know I helped make it that way. That landed deeper than anything else he had said. For a heartbeat, I almost changed my mind. I almost asked if there was a way to slip in the back, watch unseen. Just to say I had been there in some small way. Then I pictured their reaction again, the threats, the chat logs. I am hanging up now, I told him quietly. If I keep talking, I might agree to something I regret. He did not argue or beg me to stay on longer. Okay, he said, voice small for the first time all night. Thank you for at least calling me. I hovered for a half second, just long enough for one final line. I hope the ceremony goes smoothly, I forced out. That is the most generous thing I can say right now. I still love you, even if I cannot stand what you are doing. Then I tapped end before I could hear his answer. The call dropped and the room went very still. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen. I placed the phone down with careful fingers like it might explode. Somewhere in town, my brother was probably leaning against a wall, drained. We were both bracing for the same day, on entirely different sides of the door. The alarm went off and I knew exactly what day it was. My hand shot out, slapped the screen, missed, hit it again. For a second I lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. A stupid thought flashed through my head. If I never get up, maybe the wedding does not happen. My phone buzzed again before I even sat up. New message banner, my mom's name across the top. Big day, thinking about both of my kids, love you. No question, no invitation, just that loaded sentence. I felt my chest tighten like I had swallowed a rock. Another ping landed right under it. Please text me so I know you're okay. I swung my legs over the side of the bed. Every part of my body felt heavy and overcaffeinated at once. I typed, then erased, then typed again. I am awake, I wrote that first. Then I added, I am not coming, we already talked. My thumb hovered, my jaw clenched, then I hit send. 3 dots popped up immediately, then vanished, then popped up again. I stared at the screen like it owed me something. She finally replied with one sentence. I know, it still hurts anyway. I put the phone down face first on the nightstand. I did not trust myself to keep reading anything else from her. Every word from my family that day felt like a test. I got dressed in regular clothes on purpose. Jeans, plain shirt, nothing that could pass as wedding casual. If I put on anything nicer, I knew I might crack. Tiny choices like that felt like guardrails I desperately needed. I brushed my teeth, ignored my reflection, and walked out. The clock on the stove glared at me as I grabbed my keys. 3 hours till the ceremony, give or take. Plenty of time to drive across town if I changed my mind. That thought sat in the back of my head like a dare. I made myself walk past it and open the front door. I got in the car and just sat there for a minute. Hands on the wheel, engine off, heart pounding. The directions to the venue were already saved in my maps. I could have tapped once and followed the blue line like routine. Instead, I opened a different app completely. I searched for diners near me without thinking too hard. Picked the first place that looked open and not crowded. Hit start and watched a different route highlight on the screen. I turned the key, backed out, and forced myself to follow it. It felt like driving away from two lives at once. Halfway there, my phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I glanced down at a stoplight and saw Jenna's name. She had sent just 3 words. Thinking about you, seriously. I swallowed hard and waited for the light to change. I almost pulled a U-turn right then. The image of her in some little dress at the venue hit. Her sitting in a row with the rest of them watching him. I could picture the exact side of the aisle I should be on. I pushed my heel harder into the floor and drove straight instead. By the time I parked outside the diner, my stomach felt raw. I sat in the car for another 30 seconds just breathing. Walking into a restaurant alone should not feel like a moral decision. That morning, it felt like picking a side in a battle. I finally opened the door and made myself get out. Inside, a bored host glanced up and grabbed a menu. Just you today. His voice floated over with zero judgment, just routine. Yeah, I cleared my throat and adjusted my grip on my phone. Just me. He led me to a booth toward the back and wah. Elk head away. I slid in and dropped my phone on the table. For a second, I just stared at it like it was dangerous. Then I flipped it over and checked the time again. 2.5 hours until my brother said his vows. A server showed up with a notepad and a tired smile. What can I get you? Coffee, I answered. The word came out too fast, then I added, and pancakes. I was not hungry, but I needed something to do with my hands. While she walked away, I finally opened my messages. There was a new one from my dad waiting. No pressure from us today. We love you. We will talk later. I stared at the words no pressure and almost laughed. The whole day was pressure, just quiet and invisible. If I stayed silent, I felt like a coward. If I went, I would be the easy villain in their story. There was no version where I came out looking good. A tiny notification popped up at the top of the screen. New photo in the family group chat. My chest clenched, but I clicked anyway. My mom had posted a shot of my brother in a suit. His face looked pale and overwhelmed and proud. Under the picture, the comments were already piling. So handsome. Cannot wait to celebrate you. Today is finally here. No mention of the missing sibling, obviously. I should have closed the app. Instead, I tapped the picture and zoomed in on his eyes. I tried to see if there was any guilt there, any hesitation. All I saw was a guy trying not to faint from nerves. It hurt and weirdly softened something at the same time. The server set my coffee down in front of me. The sharp scent hit my nose and cut through the fog. You waiting on anyone? She asked casually. No, I answered. Everyone I am waiting on is somewhere else today. She gave me a quick look, sympathetic but not nosy. Big thing going on. I let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. Yeah, my brother's wedding. Family drama, she guessed, one eyebrow lifting. I hesitated, then nodded. You could say that. She topped off the mug slowly, like she was buying me time. Well, if you need to sit for a while, nobody will rush you. She moved on and I sat there, throat tight again. My phone buzzed against the table, rattling the mug. New message from Jenna, this one longer. They have you on the not allowed list at the entrance. She must have seen the way my name was actually written down. That detail hit me harder than I expected. Not allowed. 2 words you usually see on a door, not a person. They had turned it into a policy, not just a feeling. I typed back with shaking thumbs. I am not coming, promise, I am not giving them that show. 3 dots appeared, then her answer. Good, because the way they are talking right now, it would explode. She added another line before I could respond. For what it is worth, I think this whole situation is trash. I stared at that last word and felt a tiny flicker of relief. The pancakes arrived and I cut into them mechanically. Every bite tasted like cardboard, but I kept going. I checked the time again, like a reflex I could not stop. 2 hours until the start now. They were probably fixing flowers and arguing over playlists. Another buzz pulled my attention back to the screen. This time it was my mom again, private message. If you change your mind, we can have someone meet you outside. My stomach twisted because she still was not hearing me. She was clinging to some last-minute miracle version. I read the text 3 times before answering. I am not coming, please stop asking. She replied with a single word. Okay. Nothing before or after, just that. That okay felt heavier than a full paragraph. I imagined her standing in some dressing room with her phone. Typing and deleting, adjusting her makeup between pings. Trying not to ruin her own part in the day with tears. I hated myself a little bit for not easing it. The minutes crawled and jumped at the same time. Every time someone came through the door, my head turned automatically. A couple walked in at one point, dressed up, laughing softly. They looked ready for somebody else's celebration, not mine. I went back to staring at my coffee, trying to breathe normally. My brain kept replaying different versions of the day. One where I walked into that venue and chaos erupted. One where I caved last minute and sat quietly in back. One where I never posted anything and we were all smiling together. That last one hurt the most because it was no longer possible. I will be honest, part of me missed the feeling of being right. The adrenaline of posting, of telling everyone what really happened. Having strangers call me brave, send me virtual applause. It had scratched some deep itch I did not want to name. I see that now more clearly than I did then. Back at that booth though, I still clung to the idea of being justified. If I let go of that, what was left? I did not want to be just the messy sibling who blew everything up. I want D to be the one who finally opened his eyes. Reality does not sort itself that neatly. About an hour before the ceremony, my phone rang. Not a message this time, an actual call. My chest seized when I saw my mom's contact heading. I picked up because ignoring her felt cruel. Hey. Noise rushed through the speaker, busy and echoing. I could hear voices, footsteps, distant music checks. Where are you? She asked, voice tight, a little breathless. At a diner, I answered, trying not to stare at the clock. I just wanted to hear your voice. Something in me softened and stiffened at the same time. Do you want me to lie and say I am fine? I asked. She let out a strained sound that might have been a laugh. No, I want you to tell me you will be okay eventually. That is a big ask for a 5-minute call. I picked at the edge of a napkin with my free hand. Is he nervous? I asked after a short pause. Very, she answered without hesitating. He keeps looking at the door like he expects you to magically appear. That image punched the air out of my lungs. Do not tell me that, I whispered. I do not need more reasons to feel sick about this. I am already questioning every choice I have made for a year. The line crackled while she took a breath. I am not saying it to guilt you, she replied softly. I am saying it because he loves you and this still hurts him. In between all the tension with her relatives, he keeps bringing you up. I do not want you to think he forgot you today. My eyes burned and I blinked hard at the tabletop. If you tell me to come right now, I might break my own rules, I warned. She went quiet, then answered slowly. I cannot do that to you. Once you walk through those doors, the whole room changes. You would be walking into a nest that already decided its story. So you agree I should stay away? I asked, stunned. I agree you should not martyr yourself to prove a point, she said. You already chose not to go, do not wreck yourself backtracking now. For once, let them live with the weight of their conditions. Let them own what they asked for. I did not expect that from her. I had pictured her begging until the last second. Hearing her tell me to keep my distance felt strange and right. Like she finally picked a side that included me, just not physically. It did not fix anything, but it shifted something small. Are you going to send pictures? I asked after a moment. Not today, she answered. Her voice shook a little on the last syllable. Maybe later, when it does not feel like rubbing salt in it. Right now, I am just trying not to cry off my mascara. That made me snort a little through my nose. Okay, go help your son get married, I said. I will be here, pretending pancakes are a personality. You sure you do not want me to pick up the tab? I added, trying to lighten it. She let out a tiny real laugh. I will call you tomorrow, she promised. Then she paused and added, I am proud of you even if nobody else says it today. I stared at the far wall, not trusting my voice. Talk tomorrow, I managed, and ended the call before I broke. My hand shook as I set the phone back down. The server swung by again and gave me a quick once-over. You okay over here? She asked, refilling the mug. Not really, I answered because I was too tired to pretend. But I am tipping well. She smiled faintly and nodded. Time crawled toward the start of the ceremony. I did the math in my head without meaning to. They are greeting guests right now. They are seating people. They are dimming whatever needs dimming. When it hit the exact hour, my chest went tight. I pictured everyone standing as the music started. I imagined my parents turning in their seats, doing a quick scan. Finding one obvious gap where I would have been. I wanted that gap to sting them, but not ruin them. That is the part I keep tripping over, honestly. I wanted consequences, not complete destruction. The problem is you cannot always control which one you get. You throw a rock and tell yourself you aimed carefully. Then you watch it ricochet off things you never planned for. At some point I gave up on the food. The pancakes congealed on the plate, untouched, unimportant. I sat there through the whole supposed hour of the ceremony. Sometimes watching my mug, sometimes scrolling meaningless apps. I refused to open any family chats while it was happening. When I finally looked at the time again, nearly 90 minutes had passed. They should have been hugging people and posing for staged photos by then. I grabbed the bill, left cash on the table, and stood up. For a second, I thought about driving toward the venue after all. Just to sit in the parking lot and see cars pull away. Instead, I walked outside and turned the other direction. The air hit my face, sharp and grounding. Cars moved past like it was any other Saturday. People are rude. Indimi ran errands, laughed, argued about nothing. Nobody knew I had just skipped my own brother's wedding. I went home and collapsed on my couch, drained. As soon as I sat, my phone lit up again. New pictures in the group chat, my stomach flipped. I forced myself to open it because hiding would not help. My mom had posted a shot of the whole wedding party. He looked relieved in that picture, tired but proud. She looked happy, genuinely, not just for the camera. My parents stood on the side, shoulders touching. There it was, the row where I should have been in the front. Space filled by someone from her side instead. Before I could overthink it, I turned the screen off. I let my head fall back and stared at nothing for a while. I will admit I cried then, hard and messy. Not the pretty single tear kind they show in movies. The kind where your face burns and your breath stutters. Part of me grieved the version of that day I never got. The one where I was there, maybe in the background, maybe not. Where we laughed about nerves afterward and shared cake. Where her relatives glared but kept it to themselves. That version died long before the actual ceremony. The rest of the day blurred into short chunks. My parents both called late that evening separately. They each gave me their summarized version of how it went. They avoided saying my name too much like it hurt them. I listened, made polite noises, and kept some distance in my voice. He did not call that night. I did not expect him to, honestly. He sent a text instead, hours after the dancing ended. We got through it, wish you could have been there. I stared at the words and could not answer yet. The days after the wedding felt strange and hollow. The group chat slowly filled with more photos and videos. I scrolled fast, barely letting my eyes focus. She threw her bouquet, people toasted them, everybody danced. It all looked like a life from which I had been erased. About 2 weeks later, he followed through on his promise. My phone buzzed with a new message one afternoon. Can we meet up next weekend? Neutral spot, just us. I stared at it for a long time before replying. We ended up picking a coffee place halfway between our neighborhoods. Neutral ground, like he said, no relatives in sight. I walked in early, palms sweating, throat dry. He showed up a few minutes later, looking older and worn. We hugged in a stiff, awkward way that still mattered. We ordered drinks and sat across from each other. For a minute, neither of us knew how to start. So I said finally. So, he echoed, rubbing his hands together. The silence stretched until we both snorted at the same time. How was the honeymoon? I asked, breaking the stalemate. Nice, he answered, eyes drifting away for a second. Also weird because we kept circling back to all this. He gestured between us with one hand, tired and frustrated. We argued about you at least twice. A twisted part of me felt satisfied at that. Not because I wanted fights, but because it meant I still mattered. How bad? I asked. Not plate throwing, he said with a half smile. Just intense conversations where we both refused to budge. She still hates me, I guessed. He did not even pretend otherwise. She does not trust you, he corrected. She thinks you lit a match and walked away smiling. She does not see the part where you are sitting with ashes now. I took a sip of my drink, trying not to flinch. To be fair, there was a second where I did smile, I admitted quietly. When the post first took off, it felt like justice or something. Seeing that level of attention on what he did felt satisfying. I am not proud of that, but it is real. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I appreciate you saying it out loud, he replied. Because that is exactly how they describe you when they get going. They act like you enjoyed the chaos more than the truth itself. Hearing you own that piece makes you sound like a person again. I never stopped being a person, I shot back, but without heat. I just made choices that were louder than everyone else's silence. I still think what I posted needed to exist. I also think I aimed it like a sledgehammer, not a scalpel. Both can be true, and it sucks. He leaned back and let out a slow breath. That is pretty much how I see it now, he said. Some of her relatives want me to treat you like a threat forever. A few of them only see the damage to their side. I am stuck in the middle, trying not to lose my mind. Where do our parents land now? I asked. He gave a small, tired shrug. They are on eggshells, he admitted. They feel guilty about going along with the no invite. They also feel resentful because they are still taking heat from both camps. Hearing that did not make me feel better or worse. It just added another layer to the pile. Do you regret banning me? I asked, wanting something direct. He looked me straight in the face for once. Yes, he answered, no hesitation, no softening, just that. Then why does it not sound simple? I pushed. Because I do not regret protecting her that day, he said. She deserved a ceremony without people storming out mid-vows. I hate that the cost of that was your presence. I hate that there was not a version that gave us both. You picked the marriage, I said, keeping my tone even. As you should have, honestly. He blinked, surprised, then narrowed his eyes. That is not what you said on the phone, he reminded me. I recall a lot more sarcasm and threats that night. I was bleeding that night, I replied, hands curling around my cup. Today I am just scarred, I guess. It still aches, but I am not actively bleeding out anymore. I can see more than one side without bursting into flames. Unfortunately, that means I can see my own mess too. He let out a rough laugh that sounded relieved. Join the club, he muttered. I have replayed every conversation I had with her family. How I tried to spin you as impulsive but well-meaning. Half the time I wonder if I should have walked away instead. Would you? I asked, curious and a little cruel. Would you really have ended the engagement over this? He went quiet, then shook his head once. No, he said honestly. I love her even with the family attached. That answer hurt and made sense at the same time. I could not fault him for not blowing up his entire life. I chose to set off my own explosion, he chose differently. We are both living with what we picked, I said softly. Yours comes with a ring, mine comes with a Reddit account. He snorted at that, choking a little on his drink. Speaking of, he said slowly, I know about your posts now. My stomach dropped to my shoes. Which ones? He raised his eyebrows like the answer was obvious. The big one about her uncle, obviously. And the first one about the wedding, the pre-drama version. My friend sent it to me without realizing it was actually you. I recognized the story pretty fast. Heat shot up my neck into my face. What did you think? I asked, genuinely scared to hear it. He turned his cup between his palms as he answered. You did not lie, he said. You just told it from the angle that made the pain richest. That is one way to describe it, I muttered, wincing. He gave me a long look, not cruel, just measuring. I read the part where you called me a coward, he said. And the part where you mentioned enjoying the attention. I was mad, then I thought about why you wrote it there. I wrote it there because nobody in our actual life was listening, I admitted. Because every time I brought it up, people told me to be quiet. Reddit felt like a courtroom that would not throw out my evidence. Even if they did not know our real names. Even if I was secretly hoping they would pat me on the back. You got both, he pointed out. People who cheered you on, people who dragged you hard. Strangers making verdicts about people they will never meet. He shook his head slowly, like he still could not believe it. It is weird knowing my wedding drama is internet entertainment. It is weirder being the main character and still missing the show, I said. We sat in silence for a few beats, each lost in our own angle. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the table. Are you planning to update that post? He asked. About how you actually did skip the ceremony. I had already drafted half of it in my head by then. Not that I was going to admit that immediately. Maybe, I answered, tracing a circle on the cup. I keep thinking about telling people how it actually ended. Not just so they can rate me again, but to get it out. He nodded slowly, like he got it more than he liked. If you do, keep one thing in mind, he said. Remember, we are real people, not just content. Even if you hate some of our choices, we still live here. We still have to show our faces at work and in town. That goes for you too, I shot back, but softer. Remember, I am more than the mess you have to manage. I still exist on days when I am not convenient for events. I do not vanish after the party ends and the photographer leaves. He met my eyes and held them. Fair, he said. I will try to remember that every time her aunt brings you up. He rolled his eyes at some imagined future argument. They keep using you as a cautionary tale. Like, do not cross them or they will blast you online. A bitter smile tugged at my mouth. Nice to know I am still famous in the worst possible way. Maybe I should start charging rent for how much space I take up. He actually laughed then, relaxed for the first time all afternoon. It felt fragile but real. We talked a little longer about surface things. Work bills, random family gossip that did not involve me. Underneath all of it, the fracture remained. There was no sudden fix, no hug that cured everything. But there was a line thrown across the gap. When we finally stood up to leave, he hesitated. Are we okay? He asked, almost like a kid. I thought about it carefully before answering. We are not okay, I said. But we are not done. His shoulders dropped in something like relief. I can live with that, he replied. We walked out together and split in the parking lot. He headed toward his car, already in his new life. I got into mine, carrying the old and new at once. That brings me to right now, writing all this out. I am sitting at my desk, screen bright, fingers sore. My original post about calling out her uncle is still up. The first wedding post is still buried somewhere in my history. And this is the new update I never thought I would write. I skipped my brother's wedding because his wife's family treats me like an enemy. I also skipped it because I refused to be their chaos prop. I blew up their secret by going public in the loudest way I knew. I enjoyed the rush more than I want to admit, at least at first. I am living with every consequence, deserved or not. He chose to marry into a family that wants me contained. He also pushed back enough that I am still in his phone. My parents agreed to a plan that kept me out of the ceremony. They also called me afterward, voices shaking, trying to hold all their guilt. Nobody in this story is spotless, not even a little. So that is where I am when I hit post on this update. Not sure if I am the whistleblower, the saboteur, or both. Not sure if staying away was the mature choice or just self-protection. I am still angry, still sad, still convinced I was right about some things. And still very aware I handled others like a wrecking ball. What I know for sure is this. The wedding ended hours ago, days ago, weeks ago. Their war with my side did not end with the last dance. I still do not have a place in their official story of that day. But I have this one, and I am not banned from telling it.